Hello everyone, welcome to our December exhibition at Archway Gallery. This month we're delighted to have our hand weaver and fiber artist Laura Viada, and her show she's entitled Resonance. Now, one other thing going on at the gallery, we're also thrilled to have the opportunity to share in the celebration of Beethoven's 250th birthday. And to that end, we are hosting Adam Golka on piano, where he will be performing all 32 of the piano sonatas over the course of several nights, roughly about 3 per night. That begins on December 17th and runs nightly. There's a short little break over Christmas itself. Check out our website, archwaygallery.com, for more information on that and tickets. Now, let me turn things over to Laura Viada to tell us about her show, Resonance. Laura?
Okay, good evening, everybody. Welcome to my show. I'm Laura Viada. I've been a member of Archway Gallery for 3 years now, and this is my first solo exhibition at the gallery, and I'm very excited to share this with you. This show is meant to be a celebration of color and music and the wonderful physical property of relevance that makes it possible for us to experience those moments of beauty. The laws of physics operate with this to help us experience sound and experience color. This exhibition is being held in conjunction with a really important musical event that's been going on that will be going on in the gallery this month. It's a series of 11 performances by pianist Adam Golka in celebration of the 250th anniversary of the birth of Ludwig van Beethoven. Over those 11 concerts, Adam is going to perform the full cycle of Beethoven's 32 piano sonatas. So I wanted to make the show that I would mount to have in conjunction with that event to be something that would correspond to the musical events and create a total experience for the viewers. Okay, so each piece in this exhibit is dedicated to one of 3 artists whose work has most resonated with me. People who have inspired me and given me wonderful ideas to use throughout my artistic life. Each piece in this exhibition says the name of the artist that it's dedicated to, and each piece bears an additional title that relates to the piano sonatas and to some films that Adam is going to be showing, explaining some of the themes that he explored in this musical adventure of his. So, for example, this piece here is dedicated to the artist Joseph Albers, who is, one of my main inspirations as a phenomenal colorist and artist, and it also bears the title of Waldstein, which is my favorite of Beethoven's piano sonatas. This is my favorite piece that I wove for the exhibition, so the title makes perfect sense there for me. All of the pieces in this exhibition do explore resonance as a property of color, and you'll see through all the pieces that I'm exploring different ways of blending color and asking you to look at the piece and make those color blends with your own eyes. In this particular piece, I use strands of different colors of thread to create the blends here that are fairly intimate blends, so that when you get up close to the piece, you'll be able to see the different colors that make up each blend in each of these color blocks. But when you step away from the piece, they'll merge together into the color that they will appear to be from a distance. The pieces that are here on this front wall are all constructed using a technique where I create an opaque background cloth and lay in the areas of pattern individually by hand on top of that background cloth. All of these, even though these are different types of pieces, they're created using the same technique. Now, and as you go through the exhibition here, you're going to see several different ways in which I have chosen to blend the colors. One, as I just described to you, doing it on the spools. Another way that I blend colors is by creating horizontal stripes against the black background of a certain color, and then overlaying an additional color, next to that horizontal stripe, and then adding the third in this area here, and your eye will blend those 3 steps that are outlined in that process in different ways and give you different effects. And you'll notice as we go through this, and this is another piece that's created with a series of horizontal stripes, and these pieces on the wall here are the same. I'm using the same colors of yarn, the same color palette, I suppose. In these 4 pieces, I'm using a medium grays, whites, and this metallic rose color. And you can see how the different colors either advance or retreat. Lighter or darker colors will advance or retreat as your eyes blend them, and you get different effects from all of these pieces. You can see this especially in the 3 pieces here on the wall. I've used a total in these on each piece of about 6 different colors or tones, and with those 6, the blends that are achieved, are very complex, and they create a great deal of depth. The centerpiece is more a series of different neutrals that I've put together here. The series of pieces that are the smaller ones that are based on gradations on the borders and then the square in the center are also inspired by the color studies of Joseph Albers. The title of this particular series is Translation. It relates to one of the films that Adam Golka is going to show, but I took a basic idea of a border with something going on, either a stripe sequence or a gradation where the color seems to fade into the background, with some activity in the center of that, usually based on the square. By the time I got to the end of this series, where I would translate this idea over and over and over again into different pieces, by the time I got to this one, which was the last piece I wove in the series, I'm really deconstructing my squares quite a bit. Squares and rectangles are a theme that I explore quite a lot in my work, and they started to come apart as I went through the process. Here's the one where I started with the deconstruction, and the piece on the end is the end of that process. You'll notice that as we've gone through the exhibit so far, I've been sticking to the same color palette. I chose this, I like it, I thought there was a great richness to it, and it worked well. So I couldn't resist at some point just working with highly saturated, pure primary colors. And the pieces on this wall represent that. And basically I've got, just the plain red, blue, and green, which are, think, well, green's not a primary color, but yes it is when you're dealing with optical mixing and the way our eyes blend colors. So those are the primary colors when we deal with light and when we deal with optics. Here's another example of the way our eyes blend color. You're looking at this piece, and what you're probably seeing is green and red and yellow. But there is no yellow in this piece at all. Your eye is creating that image, because in our eyes, when green and red come together, they create yellow. In paints, we think of yellow as a primary color. In optical mixing and in light mixing, it is a secondary color. So this just shows you, how our eyes do things that are very, very different from what occurs in the world of paint and pigment mixing. And it's something that I've explored for a long time, because in the world of hand weaving, when warp and weft cross each other, there are separate areas of color that that are being blended by our eyes. You know, we're not mixing pigment in the way that painters do. Okay, this series of pieces, I'm using the color blending technique I described before, where I'm mixing different colors of yarn on the spool. So when you get up very close to these pieces, you'll see something, you know, more interesting basically than when you're stepping back and it blends. The technique I'm using here is different from what I've showed you before. Again, I'm hand manipulating to create the pattern, but instead of going on top of an opaque background, the pattern threads are going between the ground threads, and it's the background of the fabric is sheer. So when it hangs slightly out from the wall, as it does here, the light and shadow that's created by the contrast between the opaque positive space and the sheer negative space adds interest, and is part of the creation itself. So these pieces were inspired by the weaver Annie Albers. She is just a real pioneer in the area of weaving and textiles as art in their own right, independent of their function. These pieces are taken from and inspired by some sketches that Annie Albers did late in her life, when she was just experimenting with designs based on right triangles and flipping them and making interesting patterns with doing those things. I'm very fortunate to have a reproduction of the notebook that she had at the end of her life where she was creating these designs, and I took some of them and thought they would translate well into transparency weavings, you know, with the added color and then the added interest of the gold threads that I've put in here. So each pair of pieces here are the inverse of each other. In this piece, you know, where the positive space is in this piece is going to be negative space in its companion. So, you know, view them as pairs. They're intended to be observed that way. And then finally, the different technique that I used here is a more traditional weaving technique that we call loom controlled. And that's basically where, instead of hand creating the pattern by manipulating the threads myself, the loom does the work for me. I have to decide what pattern I'm going to weave, and I have to tell the loom how to weave that pattern. And I tell the loom how to do that by the way I thread it and by the way I combine the various pattern areas on the loom that I've threaded to make the different lifts that create the pattern when I throw the shuttle across it. So all the work for these pieces primarily is done up front. It's done in the planning. For a piece like this, I put the warp on the loom. I have a picture idea of what I want to do, and then a lot of times I'm just making it up as I go along. I have no idea. I knew I was going to use blues in this one, but I had no idea which blue or which gray I was going to put where until I got to that point. In these, it's all pre-planned and put on the loom in advance. And just in summation, you know, it's been a great journey working on this show. The theme of resonance sort of emerged as I was working on it, when I was trying to put something together that would work well with the musical experience. And let me just tell you guys a few details about what's going on now. The performances that Adam Golka is going to give begin on December 17th, and they'll run virtually every night at 8 o'clock through the month of December, with the exception of Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, and the day right after Christmas. Every other day we'll be having a concert at 8 o'clock. Tickets are on sale on Archway Gallery's website right now. The performances should be just wonderful. At Archway, we know that people are concerned about COVID-19, and I just want to assure you that we're taking every precaution to protect the people that come in to view the show during the gallery's open hours and that are going to be coming to the concerts. And for anybody that comes to view the exhibition, again, masks are required and social distancing needs to be observed. The gallery's open hours are 10 to 6 on Fridays and Saturdays and 1 to 5 on Sundays. And I will be here during all gallery open hours so that anybody that wants to ask questions or learn more about the art of weaving and discuss the pieces, I will be just delighted to speak to anybody that wants to learn more about this wonderful art form and the type of work that I'm doing. Thank you very much for attending this virtual opening, and I hope everyone will take the time to come in and see the show in person. It'll be up until January 7th. Thank you.
Thanks, Laura. You can check out all of her works on our website, archwaygallery.com, and also come in to visit us personally at the gallery. We're open 10 to 6 Fridays and Saturdays and 1 to 5 on Sundays. Thank you. Have a great December.